In Syria, international aid has reached a rebel-held enclave despite complications caused by a 12-year civil war. An official at the Bab al-Hawar border crossing between Turkey and Syria has confirmed that a UN aid convoy has entered the region, where millions rely on humanitarian aid. And let's cross over to Yakshan Shishakli, CEO of the Maram Foundation. He's joining us from Gaziantep in Turkey. We hear reports about a first convoy that made it over the border from Turkey into Syria. But is that heavy lifting equipment that we've heard about arriving in other parts of Turkey, arriving in parts of Syria where it's also needed?
We have to be clear about this. I mean, this convoy, 6 big trucks were scheduled before the earthquake. So basically it doesn't have any earthquake responding equipment, doesn't have really first aid equipment. It's just being scheduled before. Yes, it's necessary, it's needed, but it's nothing yet came after the earthquake or came belonging to the earthquake.
How can Syrians hope to even help or save their relatives, their friends who are stuck under rubble when all they have is their hands to dig through the rubble? None of the heavy lifting equipment and none of the international expertise when it comes to finding earthquake survivors.
You know, it's very sad. Not even heavy lifting equipment, no equipment at all. People are taking, like, wherever they find, like small forks, farming forks, wherever they can find, and in many cases by their hands going to their relative houses, and they digging the ground and they're calling for everybody's help. So you always see civil society teams, of course, including our organization, the one I work for, they're going from door to door asking for people's support. And there is no equipment. And we're talking about, an area where it's surviving a 12 years war. So basically, unless we get good equipment or normal equipment, we're not going to be able to help more people. The civil defense, White Hamlet mentioned, they will give up soon because it's been 3 days and they cannot work anymore hoping to find people.
Who's responsible for getting that equipment in there?
That's really the big question. We have no governmental control. So basically, we're calling the international community, the UN agencies, and they are responsible for this area. I mean, the response will be slow. I heard like a new report mentioning some countries pledging money, and this money, just to be clear, will not arrive tomorrow, and the complication and for logistics will take at least weeks to arrive. So I think the international community should act faster.
But are sanctions a problem?
No, sanction never the problem, because sanction is on the regime held area. We're talking about other areas, and also food, medical supply, and other necessities are not under sanction. And the US and other European countries mentioned this over and over. Those necessities are not under the sanction.
Yakshan Shishakli, thank you very much for joining us, CEO of the Maram Foundation, filling us in on the situation in Syria.
Thank you.
Heidi Sadiq is Deputy Syria Director at Action Against Hunger and joins us from Beirut. Are you managing to get aid into Syria right now?
Yes, we are managing. We have existing operations inside Syria. So what we're doing now is actually scaling up our existing response. We're mobilizing additional funds and also increasing our human resource capacity to be able to meet the now significantly increasing needs in the affected areas by the earthquake.
How challenging is it setting up a line of communication with the right person in the right place to know where to get that aid?
So actually, Action Against Hunger and many other international aid organizations already have existing offices and teams on the ground. So for Action Against Hunger, we have a team based in Aleppo that has direct access to the survivors of the earthquake. And actually, many of our staff are affected themselves and working around the clock to do needs assessments, to go and visit people who are displaced and now living in collective shelters. So we go to them directly and establish the need, and based on that, we mobilize funds to be able to support them with the relevant aid.
And at the same time, what sort of aid is coming from the Assad government?
So there is a lot of coordination. So, for example, inside Aleppo, the fears of further collapse of the buildings, that is all being coordinated with local authorities, evacuations of existing buildings and assessments of the structural soundness of the buildings. And people are being moved into, so people who are displaced are being moved into temporary shelters. And even the medical aid and water aid that we're trying to provide is all coordinated with local authorities and other partners and stakeholders that we normally work with.
How much of a juggle is that, working both with rebels and working with the government?
So as humanitarian aid organizations, we are bound by certain principles that mean that we have to negotiate and coordinate with any relevant actors on the ground, and this is no different. So whoever is available to coordinate with, we do so to make sure that aid is delivered to whoever needs it, wherever they are.
And how much aid is needed right now? Can you give us more of an idea of the scale of the need? Heidi, can you hear me? How much aid is needed right now? Okay, we seem to have lost the line to Heidi Sadiq, Syria Deputy Director at Action Against Hunger, joining us there from Beirut, talking to us about the needs in Syria following the quakes.